The apex hunter. In the vacuum of space, where silence devoured screams and metal tombs floated like ghosts, a ship drifted toward Erebus Station. Its hull bore no insignia, no lights, no warmth. Only the shadow of a hunter within. The Ralak'thar crouched in silence inside its pod, coiled in the way predators rest, ready to strike. 8 feet of corded muscle and obsidian hide. It was the result of centuries of genetic perfection and psychic conditioning. No heart rate spikes, no empathy, no fear. It had earned a dozen names across the stars: Knight's Razor, the Bone Wraith, the End of Infantry, but its creators called it Protocol Unit X-79. And it feared nothing. It didn't need weapons. It was the weapon. Erebus Station was a forgotten fuel and salvage hub orbiting a dying dwarf star, marked for scrapping. Yet someone, or something, had recently activated the station's distress beacon. Empire Protocol demanded silence from all abandoned assets. A flare like that meant deviation, or defiance. Either way, X-79 had been dispatched. When it arrived, it found no welcoming party, no defenses, just darkness. Perfect. The station's outer hull was pocked with age and neglect. Docking clamps barely functioned. Airlocks wheezed open like the lungs of the dead. Inside, dim, flickering lights, peeling floor plating, half-finished repair work, and the scent of something living. Human. It began the hunt. Its vision swept in thermal and low-light modes. Scanning. Tracking. It moved with the silence of vacuum, a shadow gliding along bulkheads. It passed open doors, empty bunks, a mess hall with a few recent crumbs left behind. Not fresh, but not old either. There were no signs of security, no drones, no turrets. Just scattered tools and stripped engines. One corridor led to the mechanical bay, where some minor power signatures spiked. It descended. A sound. Clank. Clank. Hiss. Metal on metal. Something being welded or forced. X-79 crouched, claws twitching, scenting the air. Yes, there it was. Human. The mechanical bay was vast, chaotic, and filthy. A scavenged starfreighter took up most of the floor space, suspended by cracked lifters. Crates and hull panels littered the area. Sparks flew from beneath the ship, accompanied by muffled swearing. The predator approached silently, every instinct screaming to strike. But it hesitated, out of calculation, not caution. It had killed dozens of humans before. They screamed. They begged. They bled. This one wasn't screaming. Damn thing stuck again, the voice grumbled. Every bolt on this godforsaken ship's welded itself in place like it wants to rust in peace. The predator tilted its head. From beneath the ship, legs emerged. Then a torso. Then a grease-smeared human in a sleeveless shirt, holding a wrench bigger than his forearm. He didn't even look up. "If you're here to kill me, you better wait until I get this bolt loose," the man muttered, tapping the wrench on the hull. "It's the 3rd time today. Damn thing's personal now." X-79 stood there, claws bared, its eyes glowing faint red. The human looked up slowly, eyes meeting the predator's gaze. No fear, no flinch, just tired irritation. "Oh," he said, rubbing his forehead. "You're not part of the maintenance crew, are you?" Silence. X-79 stepped forward, towering over him. Still nothing. The human just squinted. "You're one of those galaxy-famous murder beasts, right? Ralak something? You don't talk, do you?" "Nah, didn't think so." He turned back toward the bolt, grunting. "Well, you can hang out or whatever, but unless you know how to loosen anti-corrosive plating, I don't have time for theatrics." The predator froze. Every pattern it understood, every prey it had hunted, relied on fear, chemical, visible, vocal. Fear made people stupid, slow, predictable. This one wasn't afraid. He was annoyed. It had no protocol for this. The mechanic, Callum Vance, didn't like being interrupted mid-repair, especially not by apex predators. The damn bolts still wouldn't budge. Even after a plasma torch, 2 cursed-out socket wrenches, and now an alien murder machine standing 6 feet behind him. He let out a sigh that had less fear in it than mild indigestion. "Look," he said, not turning around, "I've had a week." Ship's coolant system keeps leaking like it's on strike. Hydro spanners keep disappearing. Maybe because I throw them. And now you. The Ralak'thar, X-79, watched him in absolute silence. Its claws retracted slowly, confused. Every instinct told it to strike, but curiosity, a suppressed and ancient instinct, held it back. This human was an anomaly, and anomalies required observation. Callum stood, wiped sweat and grime from his forehead with a rag that had probably been white a few years ago, and finally gave the predator a proper once-over. Yup, big, clawed, shiny eyes. You're definitely one of those death lizards the Empire sends when it wants people to shut up and die. He grabbed a thermos from a nearby workbench and took a long sip. Coffee. The predator blinked. No movement. No. Suit yourself. He drank again. Figures they'd send something like you. Last I heard, Erebus got written off years ago. Then I come poking around in the wrong signal path, and suddenly I'm the only warm body in 5 clicks. Not my brightest gig. X-79 circled slowly, watching Callum move. No tension in his limbs, no spiked adrenaline, no survival posture. His tools clanked, his boots echoed, and his heartbeat remained stubbornly calm. The predator couldn't compute it. You're not the first thing to try killing me, by the way, Callum added casually. Survived a mining ship explosion once. Crawled through 2 decks of vacuum with a broken oxygen tank and an alien chewing on my leg. Patched it up with duct tape and spite. So no offense, but you don't rank that high on the danger scale. A low growl bubbled from the predator's throat. Not for intimidation, just confusion. Are you purring? Callum asked, eyebrows raised. Is that how you're processing this? Look, buddy, if you're going to kill me, at least have the decency to do it after I fix this coolant leak. He slid back under the ship. X-79 crept closer. It flexed its claws again. 1 leap, 1 slash. That's all it would take. Then, whoosh! A burst of sparks erupted under the freighter, followed by a loud metallic clang and Callum shouting, "You absolute rusted son of a gotcha!" He rolled out holding the bolt victoriously, like a fisherman holding up a prize catch. That's right. You lose. Callum won. Stuck bolt, 0. The Ralak'thar stared. In its databanks, there were no records of prey ignoring its presence. It was always the same. Panic, retreat, fight, die. This was different, and different could be dangerous. Callum noticed the shift in its posture. More alert, coiled. Here we go. You're getting twitchy. He set the bolt down and casually picked up a welding torch. Now, I don't know what your deal is. Maybe you're waiting for me to scream. Maybe you're recording this for your handlers. But let me make something real clear, lizard breath. He stepped forward, welding torch igniting with a pop. You're not the scariest thing I've met. Not even close. You're just another weapon, dressed up in claws and muscle and ego. Me? I've fought Hungary with an empty toolbox and a cracked visor. You think I'm scared of something that can bleed? A long, tense silence. The predator didn't move. Callum turned off the torch, let clatter back to the bench, and wiped his hands. Didn't think so. He grabbed a datapad and started scanning the ship's systems like nothing happened. X-79 backed away, slipping into shadow, utterly perplexed. This wasn't victory. This wasn't defeat. It was unfamiliar. And unfamiliar, for the first time in its existence, left a whisper of something strange in its chest cavity. Something like doubt. Predator's prey. The Ralak'thar had never missed a kill. Until now. It watched from the upper gantry, cloaked in a veil of refracted light. Below, the human, Callum Vance, whistled off-key while calibrating a fuel injector, utterly unaware. Or pretending to be. 2 days had passed since their first encounter. 2 days of surveillance, stalking, testing. 2 days without a single kill. The predator had tried everything. Motion-triggered traps, pressure plate mines, even a timed atmospheric leak in Callum's bunkroom. The human dodged each one, either by accident or uncanny intuition. He moved like a man who danced with death before, and learned the rhythm. Callum stood up, stretched, and muttered, "You're still watching me, aren't you?" X-79 didn't move. "Cute," he added. "You trying to flirt with me now?" The predator hissed in confusion. Sarcasm was a language it hadn't been trained to decode. Callum tossed his wrench into the air, caught it lazily. You know, when I first saw you, I figured I was dead. But now, you're more like a weird roommate who forgot how doors work. The hunter gripped the gantry rail harder. This was not how fear worked. Prey ran. Prey begged. They didn't banter. Enough. X-79 dropped. It landed silently 10 meters behind Callum, who didn't flinch. You going for round two? Callum asked, turning slowly, hands raised. All right, but fair warning, I got creative. With a flick of his wrist, he triggered a small remote. The floor beneath the predator hissed and exploded in a burst of compressed nitrogen and oil. The Ralak'thar was flung backward, crashing into a wall of stacked cargo crates. A dozen heavy canisters fell on top of it. Boom, Callum said, smiling grimly. Should have checked the floor grid, fawn face. The predator roared, shredding through debris as it surged forward. Callum didn't run. Instead, he tossed a smoke canister into the path, followed by an arc flare that lit up the bay in flickering strobe. X-79 burst through the smoke, blinded by erratic light. Senses scrambled. Callum ducked under a swipe, rolled across the floor, and threw a custom EMP grenade. It detonated mid-air, just enough to scramble the predator's neurohelm and force a full reboot. The Ralak'thar staggered, limbs twitching. You're fast, Callum said, backing up, breathing hard now. But you think like a weapon. Straight lines. Predictable moves. I build machines. I know how to break them. The predator roared and leapt again. This time, Callum was ready. He triggered another trap. Metallic rods shot up from the floor, forming an electrified cage. The predator slammed into it and dropped hard, twitching, stunned. Sparks flew. The predator snarled, trying to rise, but the charge kept it down. It wasn't lethal. Callum didn't want it dead. Yet, he approached slowly, holding a modified plasma cutter like a pistol. His hands trembled slightly, adrenaline finally catching up. I didn't beat you with strength, he said. I'm not stronger. I'm not faster. He crouched beside the cage, eyes level with the Ralak'thar's glowing red ones. But I don't freeze. I don't fold. I don't fear you. And that's the part you don't get, isn't it? The predator stared back. Its breath came in ragged hisses. Somewhere deep in its augmented brain, a new feeling stirred, one it had never been programmed for. Recognition. It had underestimated this human, not because of his strength, but because he wasn't afraid. And in that absence, the predator had faltered, hesitated, and now it was the prey. Callum stood. I'm not your enemy, lizard boy, but I am your wall. They sent you to clean house. They forgot that some houses have rats with rabies and a flamethrower. He flipped the switch. The electric cage deactivated. The predator didn't move. I'm giving you a choice, Callum said, stepping back. Keep playing this game, or start thinking for yourself. Your masters made you a killer. But fear? You're just now learning that one. He turned his back, intentionally, and walked away. X-79 stayed on the floor, twitching fingers slowly relaxing. In its chest, where its creators had installed an artificial metabolic regulator, something strange and alien pulsed. Not fear, not exactly. Something deeper. The first shadow of self-doubt. Fear rewired. Erebus Station drifted in its quiet orbit, cold and forgotten, except for the two beings now bound by something stranger than war. Callum Vance leaned against a wall in the control center, sipping lukewarm coffee from a dented thermos. Across the room, seated awkwardly on a pile of repurposed crates, the Ralak'thar X-79 watched him. It had been 3 days since the cage. 3 days since the human let it go. He hadn't run. He hadn't struck. He had turned his back. And X-79 hadn't killed him. It still didn't understand why. You hungry? Callum asked without looking up. He tossed a sealed ration pack onto the floor near the predator. Figured you types don't eat like us, but hey, synthetic meat paste. Galactic standard. The Ralak'thar didn't move, but its eyes followed Callum, not with predator intent, more like focus. Callum exhaled through his nose and sat down across from it, arms resting on his knees. You ever wonder what it's like to not be what they made you? Silence. Probably not. They bred you to kill, right? Wired fear out of your brain. Gave you claws, speed, heat vision. All the works. Turned you into a weapon. X-79's claws flexed slowly. The words were dangerous. Sacrilege. They didn't expect you to think, Callum continued. They expected obedience. Simplicity. But you're still here. You didn't gut me when you could have. So now you're wondering what that means. He leaned forward slightly. It means you're waking up. A low growl stirred in X-79's throat. It wasn't anger, not warning, just sound, like a motor kicking to life after long disuse. Then the alarm screamed. Intrusion detected, docking bay 3. Callum was on his feet in an instant. Not yours. The predators stood. Both moved without speaking. They arrived in the docking bay as the airlock cycled and hissed open. 7 figures in piecemeal armor stormed in, pirates. Armed. Loud. Cocky. Looks like this junk heap's still got juice, one of them said. Check for salvage. If anyone's home, shoot first. Callum stepped into view with his plasma torch in hand. Hi there. Hate to break it to you, but this junk heap's mine. One of the pirates raised a rifle. Oh yeah? You in what army? A deep snarl answered. The predator dropped from the ceiling behind them, claws flashing, eyes burning. Chaos erupted. X-79 tore through the first 2 pirates with brutal efficiency. A third tried to run. He didn't make it 2 steps. Callum ducked behind a support pillar, flanking one of the invaders with a quick EMP burst that fried his weapon. Another turned his sights on Callum, fired, then froze. Not because he missed, because X-79 was standing in front of the human, blocking the shot. The predator's hide smoked where the energy bolt struck, but it didn't flinch. It protected him. Then it lunged. Within 90 seconds, it was over. The last pirate lay on the floor, bloodied, breathing hard. Alive. Barely. X-79 stood over him, claws dripping. Callum walked up beside it. Well, he's no threat now. What's it gonna be? The predator stared down at the man, claws twitching, then slowly retracting. It stepped back. The pirate scrambled away, limping, sobbing as he fled toward his ship. Callum turned to X-79. You just made a choice. The predator tilted its head. You didn't finish the kill. You showed mercy. That wasn't protocol. That was you. The Ralak'thar lowered its gaze. Callum put a hand on its massive shoulder, grease-stained fingers leaving smudges on matte black armor. You feared nothing before, he said quietly, because you didn't know what fear was. Now you do, and that makes you stronger. They stood there, among the fallen, silent. The station hummed around them, old, broken, alive again. Callum turned back to his ship, already muttering about coolant leaks. X-79 watched him go. Not as prey, not even as an anomaly. As something else entirely. A mechanic. A mirror. A spark.